I remember there being a smell in my dream, like, you know, when you leave a piece of gear on for too long and it gets hot and kind of plasticky. The gear that was in there was kind of like something AI would come up with. Weird MIDI boxes and like flashy lights, but it was dark at the same time. My hair was all like wild and wicked, and my clothes were kind of tattered from being in the studio for so long. I woke up from that dream and it just feels like it's supposed to be. Been living here like 3 years now. The house is really old. I like it. It's got a lot of character and it's big, but just what we need. A lot of space for a lot of gear. Got this old CCTV camera at RePC in Seattle. I'm trying to use it to film my Amiga sets, my DJ sets. For the rig, a little 18 action, Celestian. I don't even know who that is. Everybody asks who that is all the time. I have no idea. Dan put it up. It's underneath there too. My name is Daniel Martini, and I make music under the alias of Quad. Oh, fuck. Jungle is an electronic form of music and involves a lot of breaks, break beats from old records, a lot of bass, 808s, sub bass, what have you, and a lot of samples. It's a UK genre, man. Absolutely their thing. It stemmed from breakbeat hardcore back in the early 90s, and that came from acid house in the 80s. It all goes back to jazz eventually, but but fast forward to the early 90s in the UK, it was just absolutely popping off around that time. And I feel like you almost had to be there at Cornerly in the 90s to be in the zone. That's what I'm trying to get to, though, all the way out here in Seattle. So since it's a genre of sampling, I feel like it borrows from everything. But I feel like the go-tos are going to be obviously old funk records from the 60s and 70s, because that's the backbone of the track. That's where you're going to find the break beats. And a lot of jazz records for like little guitar hits and stuff like that. And then you can't forget that a lot of stuff came from, you know, sample CDs that came out in the 90s. The classics like Jungle Warfare and Best Service. It's so personal. It's so digging deep in the record crates and finding the ultimate sample and slapping it in and making something so raw that it just feels right. And I'm not knocking a lot of stuff today. I love new genres of electronic music, but a lot of it is just very formulaic, and jungle just is so raw and so sloppy, and I love it. That's just timeless. I saw this kid at Zion's Gate Records in Seattle. They actually have a section for jungle and drum and bass. It's like the spot. And I like saw him and I walked up to him and I was like, I'm about to school this motherfucker on some shit. Like I was like, there's no way he knows what's good. And then like I walked up to his stack and I saw what he was looking through and I was like, oh shit. And I was like, hi, I'm Dan. And he was like, hey, I'm Dan. So it was kind of impromptu, really. In 2018, me and my friend Dan Wetman started a label called Vivid Recordings.
I've known both those guys for years, and I did not know that till today. May 1st, 1999, I physically opened a record store, Zion's Gate Records. Honestly, I got goosebumps, because I really like both the guys just as people, and I'm very proud to like know that just me having the storefront and a vibe that they liked and genre they liked helped form this incredible label. The new stuff by smaller artists is fantastic. You know, it's really, really well done, like what Quad and Wetman are doing.
He hits me up and he's like, I'm looking for a new spot. You trying to come through? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like I was still living at my mom's at the time. And we ended up rooming together, and then with 4 other people, we lived in this big ass house and then started making jungle. When I moved in to the house with Dan, we had a lot of space, and I knew we wanted to throw jungle parties. So I went out and bought some JBL M Pro stuff. It was like 4 big bandpass, like double 15 subs and 2 tops, and that was the sound system for a long time. And we cranked it up. Like pre-pandemic, we had a lot of parties and people got down to jungle because it's not something you hear a lot out in the States.
At that time when I had moved in, Vivid was already rolling. For as wild as we would get down and as packed as that house would get, we never had any serious conflicts. Nothing ever got stolen, nothing ever got broken. People would even like be courteous and actually clean bottles throughout the night. So this is people that just like to listen to very intricate music really loud.
After a while, I was like, I could build a better rig than this JBL shit. Like, I started doing a lot of research on how to get big bass weight.
Is that like, are you plugging like a nuclear reactor or what?
He's got to unplug the oven to power this shit.
Right, do I need earplugs?
I gotta turn on the amp.
Jungle?
No, stop. I was cooped up in my mom's house guest bedroom because I actually broke my ankle during the pandemic, and I was just listening to jungle like 24/7. I had been watching Phineas 2's YouTube channel for like 5 years, and I was always in the back of my mind like, this stuff is so cool, but there's no way that I could ever do this. This is way above my head. And then one day, it's late, I'm working on this track, it's a jungle track. And I just get stuck in this loop, this 8-bar loop. Any good producer, you just get stuck sometimes, and I needed a moment of inspiration, so I went to YouTube and I find this track, Studio Pressures Jump, which is Photech. And I heard this synth resampled in the song, and I had no idea where it came from, but I had to figure it out. I just went on a deep dive that night, and it just took me down this rabbit hole of all this information, and it was honestly overwhelming. And come to find out that that was just really simple. You know, it's this gear, it's the Roland JV, it's the Emu Orbit, etc. You got to get all that gear, you got to run it through an Akai. And I was like, well, there's my answer. I made a list of synths that I wanted. I knew I wanted that EMU Orbit, and I wanted that Korg 03 RW, and they're workhorses. They got all the classic sounds, so that was my first step, is gathering a bunch of stuff that could give me the same sounds. And then second step was just getting dope samples, and that's a never-ending process, obviously, but there was a point in time where I went totally apeshit on that too. But the next major purchase, I actually bought an Emu E4K sampler, which was the sampler of choice in the late 90s, like 96, 97, that, you know, Dillinger used. But I never actually figured out how to work that machine. It's really complicated. I've transitioned over to using Akai S-Series samplers. And then from there, I bought a board, the classic Mackie VLZ 16 board, and eventually I upgraded to the Allen & Heath GL22, which is a beast. Cute. I was kind of randomly buying gear for a while, and then I did try to figure out what a lot of the old school guys were using. Come to find out, a lot of the stuff they used was pretty cheap and pretty shitty. Like the Behringer Ultraflex 2, if you know, you know, because that thing is real thrashy, but that's the sound. I mean, it just adds such a sizzle to the entire mix, and it's just such a classic sound. It's straight out of the 90s. The first instances of making jungle, I was like using my over-analytic dubstep brain and like trying to put 1 trillion gazillion edits and crazy stuff in there like you would, you know, for like a banger. There's so much IDM and breakcore and stuff that like me going in on a track and like really chopping up, they probably doing way too much. It was kind of commonplace. It still is. So I think in my own head, I was the one to say, this shit is way too much. Like I can't even dance to this stuff. You know, I need to bring it back because it's not groovy. It's just a flex. And I still hear that today. A lot of people are like, you're like the master of edits, or like you like doing way too much on your drums, and like I'm trying to back off as much as I can. So that early jungle stuff, I will admit, it was pretty out there, but I remember the feeling of hopping on this old gear and realizing that jungle isn't about making 1 gazillion edits. It's about laying something down quick, getting it real funky or real nasty, and then just rolling with it. And that's such a good feeling because you know you're going fast and you're making this banger, you know you're gonna be done with it within a day or two. I'll text you if I think of anybody. Cool. Yeah. Peace. Sorry, I need to turn this on. Oh, God. SP snare. And then highlight it, and then rev. Boom. Jungle. Oh, that's just, we got it, and we're in, dude. Let me not save this, so I lose all of it. Got another bass line. Got packs. There we go. Free FL Studio, folks. In 2022, I started my own record label called Heavy Sounds. That is also the name of the sound system. It's all one thing. Basically, I started the label because I didn't want to shop around tunes to a bunch of people. I wanted to have my story played out on my label, and I want to press vinyl because it's the old school way and it's the traditional way to get jungle out to the masses.
I think that it's not necessarily like a fringe or a niche genre anymore. The DJ scene and culture for that genre really never went away. And now it's cool to see it bubbling back up to, you know, a little more mainstream popularity.
I'm waiting on Heavy Sounds 02, HVS 02 in the mail, and it is caught up currently in UPS, and it's killing me, so. When you have music out on other people's labels, it's a great thing, but a lot of people pick and choose your songs, and I want to create thematic stories around each EP that Heavy Sounds puts out, and that's why I have the character Heavy to kind of guide you along the journey of the jungle ways. And I found him in a coin magic book that I had as a child that I rediscovered in a dig while I was moving my mom across country. And I saw the guy and I said, this has to be the label mascot.
I've helped him a lot with promo reels, like video promotions for an upcoming release.
Huh?
I've helped him a lot with a lot of the label art. I have been able to help him kind of bridge that gap between what would look cool, what's been done, and what's within reach with what we're working with.
Starting a record label, you have like total control over your artistic side of it too. We're creating a thematic storyline for Heavy. You'll see it pan out in the next few releases. For example, like in Heavy Sounds 4 coming up, he's going to be sucked into the past through like a vortex time machine. And in Heavy Sounds 5, the next release, he's gonna be spit out into 2023, all buff, gun-toting. So he's definitely going on quite the adventure, yeah. It's really rare to meet people that even know what an Amiga is.
I am the Commodore Amiga 500. Total home video you control, and arcade quality games in stereo. And now, you can be everything I am.
The Amiga is a home computer that was developed by the Commodore Corporation all the way back in the 80s. That was very, very popular in the UK, especially amongst younger children for gaming. The competitive computers at the time were the Atari ST line of computers, which is a very similar computer, and of course the Mac, but you had to be rich in order to own that back in the 90s. The Amiga kind of reigned supreme because of its abilities to pass audio. It was the first computer at the time to have a sound chip that actually passed audio. Now, granted, it was and still is 8-bit audio that's going through a chip in the computer called the Paula chip, but that is what is so sought after by all of us gear freaks, is that gritty 8-bit sound.
When we started making tunes, and we've barely had time to, but I put like just a little garage loop through his Amiga, and what came out just sounded so different than like any sort of like VST I would use.
There's absolutely nothing like running an 808 through the Paula chip and getting it out on the other end, and it absolutely bangs.
The workflow though, I don't think I could handle it.
I can't remember the command. Tremolo. Ooh, vibrato plus fade is 6. Let's try that. Ooh. Actually, let's save. Let's do that. Yeah, because this thing decides to randomly just shut off sometimes. I'm just looking for a command that would be cool. Volume slide. That one will get you in trouble. The moment a new piece of equipment arrives at the doorstep, I want to hook it up immediately. And if I can't, it brings me great stress. The first Amiga that I got from Kuwait. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do it, it's gonna work. And of course, I bought the cheapest one that was like for parts only, like untested. And it showed up and I powered it on, but then it did work and I opened it up and there were 3 dead roaches inside. And I said, yes, time to sell that one. So yeah, there's always a couple surprises in this old gear. It's been around, that's for sure. I said, you know what? I don't know if this tracker business is really for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy an Atari 1040 ST and try to run Cubase version 2 from 1989 on that thing. And come to find out, that was tremendously harder than the tracker for me. So I just switched back. I think there's a lot of things that people don't think about with old school gear, like nothing was standardized like it is today. Like we have USB and HDMI and it's wonderful, it all clicks together. And that is absolutely not the case with SCSI and serial ports. Oh, this is the it's just so funny. That's the fucking got him. Like just getting the computer and the mouse to work is a massive feat. It took literally a month to actually getting it to power on, and then connecting up MIDI and all that stuff. That was a huge challenge for me, honestly. When you get all this stuff set up and it's working, it's glorious. And then you realize that this stuff is really hard. Oh no.
What was that?
I made the mistake. Oh god. Yeah, so I put in the 9 on accident. I put 9 in the command line here, and then now we're moving slow. So I don't know what to do. Let's see. See, good thing I saved, right? I will admit, like, I did make a lot of mistakes, and trying to navigate a computer from the 90s when I've never even worked on DOS. I mean, I barely remember Windows XP. It's not like in Windows where you can just open up Explorer. You have to open up a program called Dopus and run it, and just to move files and delete files. It got me into a headspace where I feel like I'm some sort of computer freak, but at the end of the day, I'm nowhere near some of the guys out there. All that being said, a major reason why I got the gear was because I wanted a sound, and there's only so far that emulation can take you.
I feel Daniel has always had an emphasis on sound, on speakers.
I ended up building this sound system that has 8 subs, 4 mid-bass subs, 6 tops. I just was like, I'm gonna spend the money and I'm gonna get it done.
It was real loud. It was arrayed in a small house, like just the best that it could be arrayed because there was no room. And I saw a lot of potential, and I guess it hadn't really been deployed outside that house before. I was scoping a spot with another collective that we were working with, and then Quad was invited to come hang out with us while we did that. So that was the first time we met. I think that the Seattle freeze often comes from transplants more than actual Seattle people. I'd been kind of unmoored from a lot of my like Seattle peeps, and then meeting Quad, we're like the same age. We grew up in like with similar goals and similar interests and some adjacent friend groups, and so we hit it off like immediately and realized like how much we could do together. It almost felt like just like coming back into my city. I mean, our first like proper like rave like outside of a house party venue, like at an old abandoned Bartels, it turned out more than half of the subs had blown drivers. We found this out the day before the party, and so we had to drop a lot of money and then have my girlfriend drive quite a ways out to some old man out in the boonies that happened to have all the right drivers. And that was like not likely to happen. This was like, you don't see those drivers for sale that often, even on like Craigslist and stuff. So we pretty much thought that we were completely fucked. And then we were like bolting in drivers up until like it was time to open the doors. That one we actually did a lot of postering, and I think that a lot of the people it was word of mouth, and a lot of the people actually did just see posters. So that's pretty cool. That like restores my faith, because I really don't like the virtualization of the culture.
Make some fucking noise for P-Ross.
Thank you for dancing, everybody. I love you.
Hey Steven, we're throwing another show on the 29th. Can I put a poster up there? Respect. I don't have it right now.
I didn't just go out and want to build like a massive back-breaking sound system. Like I modeled the sound system off of what I thought was going to perform the best, but at the same time, I modeled it off of the old school reggae rigs from Jamaica and from England. I wanted to hand build this rig because that's what old school reggae sound systems did. They found materials around them for cheap and they made big loud speakers. And so I just found the best plans that I knew of off of the web, which were lab horns, and I had them built. I didn't know that you could just build a sound system that was that good, because all my experience with homemade sound systems prior was like jank. And so that was also a surprise to me. It was just like, oh, like this is possible. And it was like really empowering. Too many shows I've been to have been severely lacking in not only bass end, obviously bass end, but high end as well. There's really no point in having high energy, high bass music and not having the equipment to replicate that sound going through loudspeakers. So the point of building the sound system was to represent the music as it was intended to be represented.
I want to be able to use it for more like radical means too, or at least have some speakers that we have designated for that. Demonstrations or protests, renegades, whatnot. Having a really refined, on-the-go, tactical deployments of the sound system.
People that come out to heavy sound shows, they should expect an exceptional experience of sound and vibrations.
You ever buy a piece of gear and it's just so expensive, and then you just end up manhandling the fuck out of it. like a month later, you're like, I don't give a shit.
First time I got a really great song out of the Amiga was probably like my 4th track in.
There we go. Safe.
Because you need to, you need to work your way up to having a banger.
This is how you do jungle, mate.
But that one, I just kind of didn't give a shit. I kind of just threw a bunch of stuff at it. And that's the beauty of the Amiga and trackers, is that it's so chaotic that when you kind of just like play into that, you end up having really good results. I've heard some sloppy jungle tunes, and they still hit. Because again, it's about that vibe. It's not about precision. But it's not as simple as just hitting export. You actually have to record the song into your DAW or recording software. Ultimately, I'm trying to record these tracks onto DAT tapes eventually, which is the old school way of recording, because it's just one more step in the chain of authenticity, of sounding old school. And all those old records were recorded from samplers and Amigas and such onto tape, and from DAT tapes it was cut to vinyl. So a lot of it was very analog, and that's what I'm trying to achieve today.
Most essential studio snack, Le Pons. Artisan crackers. Another one.
I don't think I have the gall to sample Badu right now. I'm not that good. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah, that'll work. It's almost there. I usually get like big, like belters, They're just like, ah. But I'm trying to get a little more subtle here. I don't think it's gonna work though. Fuck, sounds like shit. I'm trying to find harmony. Ooh, that's it. Oh, we're grooving, baby.
His dive into hardware and the use of the Amiga and the Atari, honestly, it's compulsive. I have no idea what drives him.
Well, at the end of the day, I know that while I could make tracks that sound potentially just as cool and dope as the stuff I could make on the real hardware, it's just not the same to me. And so if I'm gonna emulate something that I love so much, which is old school jungle, old hardcore, I'm gonna do it the way that I think it's supposed to be done. Ready? Put the power on. It just feels like it's supposed to be, and I understand now a lot of the rudimentary techniques of jungle now producing on this stuff that otherwise, if you listen to it without the knowledge, you would say this kind of sucks. A lot of the time I get the confused why question of why are you making it harder on yourself by using this ancient gear from the 90s. But that's part of the process, I think, for a lot of people that still use it. They want the restriction and they want the challenge, because a lot of DAWs, a lot of modern stuff, you have 16-bit audio quality, you have literally an unlimited amount of audio channels, and sometimes you can get lost in that when at the end of the day you want to make something that's fast, is simple, and absolutely bangs. And this hardware, it makes that possible. I'm not necessarily trying to push the genre. I'm not trying to do something grandiose. I just want to make music, and I want it to be raw, and I want it to destroy dance floors.
You know, he's just a normal guy, a little quirky in a charming way, and I'm not surprised that he produces really great music on a really archaic computer. With the resurgence of vinyl the last 10 years, 5 years, whatever you want to call it, there's drum and bass records available again. The accessibility of the vinyl is a huge factor in probably the new surge in popularity too. Stylistically, it's kind of the same thing but different, right? It's a sound, but like that's what Quad stuff sounds so fresh to me.
Heavy sounds too, baby, in the building. For real, straight from England. Straight from the UK. Yeah. Should we open them up? Big knife. Wow, I mean, they did pack it. If they did it well, I don't know. Here it is. Yeah, baby. With the flip side. Chill. This is exciting as fuck, actually. Looks great. Oh my god. That came out way better than I thought it was gonna be.
You know, I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drum and bass records, of course. I mean, I texted him, I was like, bro, this is one of my favorite drum and bass records I've ever heard. To me, Quad stuff is just its own thing. Like, I can't even think of something that sounds like him. Probably has something to do with the gear he's using, but there's just something about maybe his layering or how he's putting everything together as a composition that just works in my brain. There's something about it that just clicks. What else you got?
Got the fucking...
Oh my god.
Dude.
This record's worth a ton of money, except it's kind of beat up, so I just put it out for cheap. It played fine. I just put it out there for someone that knows what they're doing to find it, and you found it. And I played it. It's a little crackly. It's more for a collecting, probably. Same with this.
That's also a huge classic.
Yeah, like super rare, worth tons of money. Tons of people want it, but you know, it's been loved, so I just put it out for cheap for someone knowledgeable to find, and it's my dear friend. All right, 25 to Venmo.
Thinking of me.
There's nothing like walking into the studio and being surrounded by a bunch of beige. Using the tools that you have on hand, touching the buttons, editing inside of the sampler or the Amiga, it's just something that you can't get. You cannot get that in a DAW. And all of that, while it may sound futile to the process of making music, it is not. It gets you into a headspace which makes you understand how Jungle was originally made, and that alone is priceless.
You don't have to do this.
Jungle, sound system culture, clashing, it all goes hand in hand. I mean, this heavy sounds thing is just, it's beyond the music now, for me at least. It's a sound system. You know, it's a community of friends and outside people, and we're starting to throw shows, and it's one and the same. The label, the wax, the sound system, it's basically all cohesively together. The thing that keeps me grounded to it is the music and the idea that all of the greatest jungle and hardcore records, stuff that like blows me out of the water to this day, was made on the stuff that you see behind me. And just putting myself in the mind of those producers back then when all this stuff was brand new just brings me so much euphoria. I want to be like them. I guess I'm trying to emulate some sort of greatness. Besides the sound, I just want to keep old school jungle alive. And I want to keep the techniques of how it was made alive. I feel like a preservation society in a way. I gotta keep this stuff alive, because they're never gonna make it again. What do I love about old school gear? Basically, it went. I'm actually getting hyped.